So next one is hypothalamus. So we have hypothalamus. So hypothalamus is superior to pituitary gland. So hypothalamus is here, where it also has endocrine property. It means from this, since childhood we are learning that pituitary gland is a master gland, but even that master gland is under control of this hypothalamus, which releases vasopressin, somatostatin, dopamine, TRH, CRH, GHRH. So these are all stimulating, releasing hormones, which helps in releasing of certain vesicles or certain, certain hormones. So now let's understand what are the other aspects that hypothalamus is doing. So it contains neurons that make ADH, antidiuretic hormone, which actually controls the water excretion. And even milk ejection. Milk ejection is also controlled by oxytocin, which actually stimulates the uterine contraction and milk ejection. So these are few functions of hypothalamus. Even it gives negative feedback. Negative feedback systems links the hypothalamus and pituitary with the thyroid, adrenal cortex, and gonads to maintain the homeostasis. And actually it permits response to changing conditions. So if you see here, so these are all different releasing hormones which are produced by hypothalamus. So now let's understand the next gland, that is pituitary gland. So pituitary gland is located at the base of the brain, and it is inferior to hypothalamus. So as I shown here, this is pituitary gland. Pituitary gland. So pituitary gland controls most of the functions. Right? If you see, it has GH, that is growth hormones, TSH, ACTH, FSH, LH. So luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, FSH and LH. These two hormones which will be released in the pituitary has effects on ovary. So what are the functions of this pituitary gland? Pituitary gland can stimulate, or even it can inhibit production of pituitary hormones. So production which produces the growth hormone, also called as somatotropin. Somatotropin, which stimulates growth of bone. So inhibits oxidation of glucose and promotes breakdown of fatty acids. And it is controlled by the hypothalamus. So certain functions are actually controlled by hypothalamus. So pituitary gland is under control of hypothalamus. And even it produces prolactin, which stimulates the milk production. See, we need to understand one important thing here, that is milk production and milk ejection. There are two different aspects. So milk production is under control of prolactin. production prolactin, pro, right? Ejection oxytocin. So, and even it produces TSH. TSH means thyroid stimulating hormone, and which actually regulated by hypothalamus and concentration of thyroxine in the blood. So concentration of thyroxine is under control of pituitary gland by producing TSH, and even it produces ACTH, that is nothing but adrenocorticopic hormones, which actually helps in stimulation of adrenal cortex. So, which adrenal cortex. So let's see what are the functions of FSH. So we have FSH is releasing. So FSH is nothing but follicle stimulating hormone, which stimulates the egg production in females, egg production, or sperm production, which is again in turn regulated by hypothalamus and estrogen in the blood. And we have LH also. LH is nothing but luteinizing hormone, which stimulates the ovulation and corpus luteum in females and cells of testis in males, regulated by progesterone or testosterone in the blood. So here what's happening is they are from the source organ they are releasing, and they have target organ, that is nothing but testis or ovary. In male it is testis, in female it is ovary, so that they are producing gametes, male and female gamete, egg or sperm. So they will be released, these LH and FSH are released, and androgens will be released into the blood, and then they get maturity. So these are the few aspects of few important hormones of pituitary gland. Let us see thyroid gland. So thyroid gland is important. So thyroid and parathyroid. So here you can see at the neck region. So they produce iodine containing thyroxine, which stimulates and maintains metabolic activities. What are those? Metabolic activities. Metabolism is nothing but it's a it's a snapshot of all chemical reactions, enzymatic reactions that takes place in the human cells or body. So that metabolic activities, chemical changes, are they're all under control by the thyroxine. If iodine is lacking, what happens is this results in the goiter, where the swelling of the thyroid gland would occur. So you would have seen that we use iodized salt, namak, right? Why? Because to avoid this condition called goiter, simple goiter, or we can say. And even it produces calcitonin. The calcitonin that inhibits release of calcium ions from bone, and is regulated by concentration of calcium ions in the blood. So in the blood, how much calcium ions are there, that would be taken care by calcitonin, so that from bone this leaching will not happen. So that would be taken care. Otherwise, calcium would be released from the bone and results in different conditions. So though it's sounding like little completely biology, but try to understand that these are all very important aspects that we need to cover in the biological basis of behavior. So we have parathyroid. So thyroid we have talked about. Parathyroid glands are pea-sized glands. Generally, they are embedded in the thyroid glands. So actually, they produce parathyroid hormone or parathormone, which actually regulated by the concentration of calcium ions in the blood. And actually, these help in maintaining the calcium ions levels in the blood necessary for normal functioning of neurons. So how it is done is that they actually stimulate the release of calcium from the bone and stimulate conversion of vitamin D to active form, from which actually promotes calcium uptake from gastrointestinal tract. So and then it actually stops or inhibits calcium excretion. So it is very much playing very much role in metabolism of calcium. So let's see another gland, that is adrenal gland. So adrenal gland, which actually lies top of the, if kidney is there like this, it could be present on the top of the kidney, each pair, one pair. So they produce androgens, glucocorticoids, adrenaline, noradrenaline. So these has very much important in maintenance of lipid metabolism, etc. So when we talk about adrenal medulla, the one of the part of the adrenal gland, which secretes epinephrine and noradrenaline or norepinephrine, which actually increases the blood sugar by influencing the breakdown of glycogen to glucose. So here you need to understand one thing, that is using adrenaline and noradrenaline, which actually converting glycogen into glucose. So if you are in science background, you can able to understand one thing, is that glycogen is more complex than the glucose. So once the glycogen is actually broken down into glucose, these are simple forms, so that they increase the blood sugar level. So they influence this breakdown of this polymer into monomers like glucose, and even it helps in this epinephrine or epinephrine helps in dilation or contraction of specific blood vessels. Even this adrenal gland has a role in stimulating the respiration. Let's see another organ, that is pancreas. So here we have pancreas. So pancreas is producing insulin, glucagon, and somatostatin. So they have secretory cells called islets of Langerhans. What are those? Islet cells or islets of Langerhans. So they release insulin, which actually lowers the blood sugar. So in the blood, the sugar molecules will be lower when this insulin is actually producing. Just imagine insulin as, if you're a hostler, just insulin as an warden. So if during the break time, or people would wander in the verandas, like corridors, right? So this insulin would come over there and they will send back into the rooms. So insulin actually lowers this blood sugar. So if each student is like a blood sugar molecule, if they come to veranda or balcony or corridor, these in charges or wardens would come like insulin, and they will be sending back to the rooms. So that's what if the insulin fails, production of insulin fails in increasing in the glucose levels. For example, if in charge or warden is or absent, so definitely there would be a ruckus or there would be a mess over in the corridor. So all glucose molecules should be still staying in the blood, and then they would be converted into glycogen. So this pancreas, which is releasing these secretory cells, which are releasing this insulin, which actually takes care of this concentration of glucose and amino acid in the blood.